Chapter 1095. I'm almost 90% sure to break through to the fifth sky of life and death realm now. On the second floor of the Tower of Time, Yichen opened his eyes and let out a long breath. According to the time outside, Yichen had stayed on the second floor for more than 3 months, which was about 30 years in the real world. It was a long time. Yichen was only in his early 40s. However, he had only been in this world for more than 20 years. Of course, 30 years was not a long time for breaking through to the fifth sky of life and death realm. As for why those geniuses who were only a few years older than Yichen could break through to the fifth sky of life and death realm so early, there were several reasons. Firstly, they didn't choose to break through to the fifth sky of life and death realm steadily. Secondly, there were some extremely precious treasures in the universe, which could increase their odds of making a breakthrough. Usually, geniuses at the top of the pyramid would not be in a hurry to break through to the next level. They valued their foundation more than anyone else. For them, foundation meant future. Yichen, play with me. On the Thunderbolt Court, Huang Fuyu was invincible. Over 10 people had been defeated by her. Even the vice-captain, Ho Lei, couldn't stand her precise bombing. Indeed, it was precise bombing. All right. Yichen walked onto the court. You serve first. Huang Fuyu stretched out her jade-like hand and said. Nodding, Yichen held the thunder ball in his left hand and twisted it before throwing it high up into the air. Boom! A beam of yellow light shot out, and a bundle of flame appeared on its surface. The flame was extremely compressed and stuck to the surface of the thunder ball, making it look like a small sun, shining with an eye-piercing light. Sun-spinning ball. Sun-spinning ball. Sun-spinning ball was more than 10 times more powerful than ordinary spinning ball. Commoners couldn't catch it at all. Lowering her center of gravity, Huang Fuyu abruptly pulled the iron rod upward. At first, the thunderbolt shot out in a parabola. Then, it suddenly quivered and turned into numerous ball shadows that scattered down at an extremely fast speed like laser beams. Heavenly made scattering flowers. Amazing! It was Yichen's first time playing Thunderball with Huang Fuyu. His opponent's skills were amazing. Although it looked ordinary, it contained dozens of variations of power. Its captain's ultimate move, Heavenly Maiden Scattering Flowers. Thunderball was very popular in the paradise of the gods. Apart from the spinning ball, instant speed ball, explosive ball, speed ball, and other basic balls, the stronger members all had their own unique skills. For example, Huang Fuyu's Heavenly Maiden Scattering Flowers was a famous unique skill. Letting out a deep breath, Yichen's eyes shone with a divine light that no one could look at directly. Those countless balls seemed to slow down, and their trajectories became clearer. Found it, the real thunderball flickered incessantly, changing its position from time to time. However, Yichen quickly captured its trajectory. Before it could change its position, he swung his rod at it. Boom! The explosion of the expanding airflow rang out, and the thunderball flying at high speed towards Huang Fuyu grew larger and larger, from the size of a fist to the size of a head, and then to the size of a house, blasting towards Huang Fuyu. Good move! Huang Fuyu's eyes brightened. She could see that it was not that the thunderball was getting bigger, but that it was constantly changing its position. Because the changing positions were so concentrated, it gave people the illusion that this move was very hard to block. The outside was just a shadow of the thunderball, while the real thunderball was changing its position inside. It could not be seen from the outside, and it was hard to sense it with soul power. Yichen's unique skill, Gigantic Ball. If the ball is bigger, then my iron rod will be bigger too. Huang Fuyu yelled in a low voice. She held the iron rod with both of her hands and waved it out fiercely. As she waved it, the iron rod expanded rapidly, reaching 5 meters in diameter and 20 meters in length. Looking closely, one could see that this huge iron rod was made up of countless smaller iron rods, similar to Yichen's gigantic ball. Boom! Without any suspense, the thunderball was countered back. Captain, watch out! Huang Fuyu's ability to counter the gigantic ball was within Yichen's expectation. Holding his right wrist with his left hand and the iron rod with his right, Yichen's body spun half a circle and fiercely hit the thunderball. This time, It was still a gigantic ball, but this time, it was spinning at a high speed. It was like an enlarged version of a spinning ball. Unique skill, gigantic spinning ball. Huang Fuyu shook her head. It was already very difficult for her to return the gigantic ball, not to mention the spinning gigantic ball. She was sure that even if she managed to catch it, the thunderbolt ball would lose control and fly everywhere, unable to hit Yi Chen. Crackle! The ball landed on the ground like a flower blooming. Countless ball shadows burst forth, their trajectories ever-changing, without any pattern. It's too powerful. I can't even see the trajectory of Huang Fuyu's heavenly maiden scattering flowers. Yi Chen's gigantic ball is even more powerful. He has only been in the paradise of gods for 2 years. I didn't expect him to already have his own unique skill and use it to defeat Huang Fuyu. Huang Fuyu was definitely famous in the paradise of gods. After all, she had already reached the 8th level of the God of War pagoda, and she was a great beauty. As for those who reached the 9th level, they were all famous people. Of course, Yi Chen was an exception. He had only reached the 7th level of the God of War pagoda, but he was already one of the famous people. Almost everyone knew about him, mainly because his speed of improvement was too shocking. When he first entered, he was also ridiculously strong, directly reaching the 4th level of the God of War pagoda. Yi Chen, given your talent, there is a high chance that you will become a battle arch. Huang Fuyu sighed. Battle arch? Everyone in the spectator stands was stunned when they heard Huang Fuyu's words. Then they immediately started discussing. The paradise of gods only has 3 battle thearchs. Can Yi Chen become the 4th? It's really possible. Think about it, in the past 500 years, how many newcomers have reached the 4th level of the God of War pagoda? You can count them on one hand. Other than that, in terms of improvement speed, Yi Chen is definitely unparalleled. He is the first in the past 500 years, no, in the past thousands and tens of thousands of years. In that case, it is indeed true. After some discussion, everyone realized that Yi Chen indeed had a high chance of becoming a battle arch. Battle arch? Yi Chen raised his brows slightly. Entering the 9th level of the God of War pagoda meant that one had the strength of a subthearch. The so-called subthearch was almost as strong as a arch. Anyone below the arch level was invincible. Entering the 10th level of the God of War pagoda meant that one had the strength of a battle arch. Battle arch was not a title, but a general term. It meant that one's strength could rival a arch. So far, the paradise of gods only had 3 battle thearchs. It was very difficult to become a battle arch. The God of War pagoda had a total of 10 levels, and each level was harder than the one before. In the early stages, one's strength would increase by several times. In the later stages, one's strength would increase by 10 times, or even more than 10 times. Not everyone could even become a subthearch, let alone a battle arch. There were only slightly more than 30 subthearchs in the paradise of gods. Time passed quickly. Yi Chen's second hunt, after joining the Frost Battle Team, began. In the intermediate hunting battlefield, the Frost Battle Team met a strong enemy, the Evil Wind Battle Team from the Evil God Paradise. The members of the Evil God Paradise were all from the Evil Spirit race. Although the average battle strength of the Evil Spirit race could not be compared to the demons and yakshas, the Evil Spirit race was the best in terms of unpredictability. 6 against 6, the Frost Battle Team and the Evil Wind Battle Team started fighting. Huang Fuyu's opponent was the captain of the Evil Wind Battle Team, the Evil Wind King. The Evil Wind King was very fast, and his movement technique was like a ghost. His weapons were 2 swords, one long and one short. He split his attention and used 2 strange sword techniques to attack Huang Fuyu. Ice Arch Slash. At this moment, Huang Fuyu was completely different from the usual Huang Fuyu. Her hair was very long, extending to her ankles like a waterfall. Her black eyes had turned pure gold, without any impurities. Faint golden light also appeared on her body. The golden light gathered behind her head and formed a golden halo. The highest state of selflessness, selfless arch. Kacha! She struck out with her hand, and an icy blue arc of light slashed at the Evil Wind King. What? You've reached the highest state of selflessness? The Evil Wind King was shocked. They were all at the 8th level of the God of War pagoda, but there were still differences in strength. Some people could only last a few breaths on the 8th level of the God of War pagoda before failing, while others could almost pass the 8th level of the God of War pagoda. He, the Evil Wind King, had reached the 8th level of the God of War pagoda a long time ago. He was one of the best at this level. He didn't expect Huang Fuyu to be much stronger than him. She had even broken through to the highest state of selflessness, selfless arch. In Wind Howl, holding the short sword in one hand and the long sword in the other, the Evil Wind King twisted his hands. The two arcs of sword chi, one long and one short, intertwined, forming a sinister sword chi tornado that faced the icy blue arc of light. But in the next moment, the sword chi tornado was frozen into a spiral icicle. Yi Chen's opponent was the Phantom Moon King, who specialized in illusions. Kid, don't resist pointlessly. It's your misfortune to have met me, the Phantom Moon King, but it's also your great fortune. The Phantom Moon King was confident, and his eyes shone with a faint light. Facing the confident Phantom Moon King, Yi Chen first released a powerful sword domain, and then used the primordial spirit kill lock on the Phantom Moon King's head. The careless Phantom Moon King felt pain in his head. He felt as if there were thousands of soldiers and horses galloping in his soul sea. How could he still use illusions? Moment of glory. Without any hesitation, Yi Chen stabbed at the Phantom Moon King. The Phantom Moon King, whose soul was injured and body was suppressed by the sword domain, could only watch as the dragon spring sword stabbed at him. He wanted to struggle, but it was as if he was trapped in a swamp. Not only that, as Yi Chen quickly approached, he discovered that an even more powerful space-stopping power enveloped him, making it difficult for him to even move a finger. No! The Phantom Moon King only had time to roar before his head was pierced by the dragon spring sword. Boom! In the next moment, the Phantom Moon King exploded like a star, turning into a dazzling light and disappearing. With one sword, the Phantom Moon King died. Su Xiao, let me help you. After taking care of the Phantom Moon King, Yi Chen targeted Su Xiao's opponent. Okay. Su Xiao was the weakest in the Ice Frost battle team, and she was in a precarious situation. Her beautiful face was full of sweat. Seeing Yi Chen coming, her face lit up. Chapter 1096. Not good, he killed Fantasy Yin King. How could he be so fast? Su Xiao's opponent was Evil Fist King. Evil Fist King's fist technique was very powerful. Seeing Yi Chen coming over, he was shocked. Although Fantasy Yin King was slightly weaker than him, it was not that much weaker. Furthermore, she was proficient in illusion techniques. If it was a life and death battle, he might not be her opponent. Captain, Fantasy Yin King is dead. Should we retreat first? Evil Fist King had the intention to retreat, and transmitted his voice to Evil Wind King. Evil Wind King's expression was very ugly. Fantasy Yin King's death was out of his expectations, and also caused them to be in a passive position. Retreat! Evil Wind King made a prompt decision, and ordered a retreat. Do you think you can escape? Yi Chen did not care about the others. Yi Chen's only target was Evil Fist King. Wang, sword domain was pushed to the limit. Evil Fist King, who had just burst out with speed, slowed down again. It was as if he was carrying an immemorial mountain, extremely strenuous. Not good, this is the 5th layer of sword domain. Evil Fist King's face was filled with fear. His domain was only at the 4th layer, one layer lower than Yi Chen's. Apart from that, Yi Chen's sword domain contained the power of space freezing, greatly increasing the binding power. How could he not be afraid? Captain, save me! Evil Fist King roared. Evil Wind King, who had already flown far away, turned his head back. Seeing Evil Fist King bound by Yi Chen's sword domain, he was incomparably shocked. He hurriedly said, "Friends from Ice Frost battle team, this time, it is my Evil Wind battle team's fault. I can apologize to you. If you can let Evil Fist King go, I, Evil Wind King, promise you that from now on, my Evil Wind battle team will not target your Ice Frost battle team. What do you think? Let Evil Fist King go, and win my Evil Wind battle team's friendship. Killing Evil Fist King will only infuriate us, which is not good for anyone." Evil Wind King scram. Huang Fuyu interrupted Evil Wind King. Pooh. In the next moment, Yi Chun and Su Xiao joined hands to kill Evil Fist King. From beginning to end, there was not a trace of hesitation. Good, very good. Ice Frost Battle Team, listen well. The next time we meet, it will be your time. I hope you don't regret it. Evil Wind King's face turned ashen. He turned around and quickly left with his team. Yi Chun, well done. Even the Wicked Wind Battle Squad was scared away by you. Olay was very excited. The Evil Wind Battle Team was not the slightest bit weaker than them. But 2 of their members had been killed. The result of this battle could be said to be glorious. Of course, all of this was brought about by Yi Chun. Yi Chun's Sinasword domain was simply the nightmare of his enemies. Yi Chun, thank you. Su Xiao wiped the sweat off her forehead as she looked at Yi Chun with admiration in her eyes. There's no need to thank me. I just did what I should have done. As he spoke, Yi Chun activated the badge's screen. It showed that his power output was 22, and his total power output was 60. Obviously, although he killed both the King of Fantasy Een and the Evil Fist King, the credit did not belong to him alone. After all, if there was no one else entangling their respective opponents, he would not have been able to kill the King of Fantasy Een and the Evil Fist King. Although the Evil Wind Battle Squad has temporarily retreated, we cannot be careless. We have killed 2 of their people. Within 100 million li, they will easily know of our existence. Huang Fuyu was very steady. Olay nodded. That's right. The Evil Wind Battle Team is not scary. However, if they join hands with other battle teams, we will be in danger. The most important thing now is to leave this place and increase the distance between us. In the hunting battlefield, the most frightening thing was to be surrounded by 2 battle teams. Once such a situation occurred, they would definitely suffer heavy losses, or even be completely annihilated. 7 days' time was very short. Seeing that there was only half a day left before they would leave the hunting battlefield, a huge stroke of luck fell on the 6 members of the Ice Frost Battle Team. It's a swarm of divine insects. Looks like our luck is at its peak. Looking at the dense swarm of divine insects not far away, everyone was not surprised but delighted. Usually, when they encountered so many divine insects, they would immediately run away. But now they did not need to run at all. Yi Chun's space freeze ability was the nemesis of all divine insects. Without a domain, facing Yi Chun, only death awaited them. They had no power to fight back. The 6 of them were like tigers coming down from the mountain. They rushed into the swarm of divine insects and started a massacre. Half a cup of tea's time passed, and the swarm of divine insects was completely annihilated. A total of 210 divine insects. Adding the divine insects we killed in the past 7 days, we killed a total of 330 divine insects. Exhaling heavily, Olay said excitedly. In this hunt, they had killed 2 enemies and 330 divine insects. 2 enemies gave them 24,000 divine coins, and 330 divine insects gave them 66,000 divine coins, which added up to 90,000 divine coins. Adding the 10% of team rewards, their total income was 99,000 divine coins, close to 100,000 divine coins. Yi Chun contributed the most, 30 divine coins, accounting for half of the team. He could get 49,500 divine coins, which was enough for him to cultivate on the 2nd floor for 4 months. Huang Fuyu was still the 2nd, contributing 12 divine coins, which gave her about 20,000 divine coins. Olay was the 3rd, contributing 8 divine coins. The other 3 only added up to 10 divine coins, but it was not low either. Each of them could get 5,000 to 6,000 divine coins, which was far more than before. After leaving the hunting tower, Yi Chun directly headed for the Tower of Time. This time, he wanted to break through to the 5th layer of life and death realm. In the blink of an eye, a month passed. Finally, I have 100% confidence. Breaking through to the next realm was no small matter. If the Dao Gate collapsed, the losses would outweigh the gains. Perhaps one's realm would drop from the 4th layer of life and death realm to the 3rd layer, 2nd layer, or even back to the initial state. This was no joke. If one's realm dropped, it would take at least a year and a half to regain it. In the next hunt, one would most likely die miserably in the hunting field. Therefore, everyone could still try their luck outside. After all, if one's realm dropped, they could just cultivate again. As long as they had enough yuan stones, this was not a problem. However, inside the god's paradise, no one dared to break through to the next realm without sufficient preparation. As for how to determine whether one was confident or not, it naturally depended on the sturdiness of the Dao Gate. The sturdier the Dao Gate, the more confident one would be. In order to strengthen the Dao Gate, one could only refine it with Jin Yuan. This was a long process, and had little to do with talent and perception. What mattered was the grade of the cultivation technique. The higher the grade of the cultivation technique, the purer and more powerful the Zhen Yuan would be. Naturally, the speed of refining the Dao Gate would be faster. Others would need dozens of years, but one would only need half the time or even less. After cultivating for a total of 4 to 5 months in the second floor of the Time Tower, which was equivalent to 40 years in the outside world, Yichen finally had a 100% chance of breaking through to the 5th level of life and death realm. Not only that, during this extremely long period of time, Yichen's Green Lotus Sword spell had also improved, from the original mid-level of Heaven Realm to the high level of Heaven Realm. Along with the improvement of the Green Lotus Sword arts, Yichen discovered that his Zhen Yuan had started to develop in the direction of Sword Yuan. It should be known that Sword Yuan was several times more powerful than ordinary Zhen Yuan. Only people with sword bodies could nurture Sword Yuan within their bodies, such as Battle King Elysium's Platinum Sword body and Copper Sword King's Bronze Sword body. Although Yi Chun had not broken through to the next realm, his strength had already improved by a lot. The Green Lotus Sword arts had made his Zhen Yuan purer and more powerful, as sharp as a blade. Another day passed, and 100 days passed in the outside world. Yi Chun walked out of the Tower of Time. One could see that the Zhen Yuan aura on his body was several times more powerful than before. His entire body was like a peerless sword, capable of slicing through anything with a wave of his hand. The 5th layer of life and death realm is even more powerful than I imagined. My strength has increased by at least 3 to 4 times. Tightly clenching his fist, Yi Chen's Zhen Yuan surged as he punched out. Streaks of sword light shot out like 10,000 arrows, creating a frightening momentum. However, the consumption of Yuan stones is too much. This time, I've spent a total of 200,000 Yuan stones. Life and Death Realm had 9 layers. With each layer, one's Zhen Yuan had to be purified. This purification process was extremely harsh. After 100% of Zhen Yuan had been purified, only 30 to 40% would remain. Therefore, one's Zhen Yuan was definitely not enough to break through to the next realm, and required a large amount of Yuan stones. As for refining the Yuan Qi of heaven and earth, it was like pouring a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. Not in a hurry to challenge the God of War pagoda, Yi Chen headed for the Thunderbolt Stadium. Today, there were many spectators in the Thunderbolt Stadium. At a rough glance, there were at least 200 people. A Jew, Lung Fifan, and the other newcomers were present, as well as Huang Fuyu and the others from the Ice Frost battle team. Yi Chen, sit here. Huang Fuyu beckoned to Yi Chen. Nodding, Yi Chen walked over and sat to Huang Fuyu's left. There are quite a lot of people today. Yi Chen asked curiously. Ho Lei turned his head and explained, I don't know what's going on today, but these high-ranking members are all here playing Thunderbolt Ball. In the past, they were always elusive. Reaching the 9th floor of the God of War pagoda, or the 8th floor of the Survival pagoda, allowed one to become a high-ranking member. Therefore, the majority of high-ranking members were quasi-emperors. However, high-ranking members were different from low and middle-ranking members. High-ranking members only needed to hunt once a year. It was extremely difficult to see them, and it was even more difficult to see them together. There were 2 high-ranking members playing Thunderbolt Ball in the stadium. From their auras, one was a human, and the other was a demonic beast. Huang Fuyu introduced. The one on the left is the Purple Lightning Spear Monarch, a quasi-emperor. The one on the right is the White Tiger King, also a quasi-emperor. However, the White Tiger King has already won 4 consecutive matches. The Purple Lightning Spear Monarch doesn't seem to be a match for him. The White Tiger King's original form was a white tiger. White tigers and giant dragons were beast kings of the same level. Yi Chen sized up the White Tiger King and discovered that he had already reached the Heaven Demonic Realm. The so-called Heaven Demonic Realm was equivalent to the highest level of the Selfless Realm, the Selfless Emperor. Once one reached the Heaven Demonic Realm, it was equivalent to refining all the demonic beast genes in one's body. One would be able to maintain a human form eternally, and one's strength would be unimaginable. A human's body would be able to perfectly unleash the demonic beast's strength. Every time the White Tiger King swung his rod, the thunderbolt ball would shoot out like an explosion. It was many times more powerful than the exploding ball. After a few rounds, the purple lightning spear monarch felt powerless. His arms were sore and numb. The thunderbolt ball he shot out didn't have any power or technique. White Tiger King, I've lost. Laughing bitterly, the purple lightning spear monarch admitted defeat. No one could describe how terrifying this ball was. This ball flickered in the air, and it seemed real and illusory at the same time. In the spectator stands, many people felt dizzy, and their eyes were dazzled by this ball. Amazing! Yi Chen's eyes lit up. He had thought that Huang Fuyu's heavenly maiden scattering flowers had enough variations, but he didn't expect the Myriad Arrow King's ultimate move to be 10 times more varied. The White Tiger King was one of the 4 great quasi-emperors. Although his battle prowess wasn't equal to his ball skills, even if his ball skills were only half of his battle prowess, it was enough to make the vast majority of people look up to him in awe. He swayed left and right, and one White Tiger King after another darted out. Suddenly, the vast area was filled with his figures, constantly swinging his rod. White Tiger King, you've lost. The Myriad Arrow King lowered his right hand that was holding the iron rod. Crackle! In midair, the thunderbolt balls collided with each other, and their trajectories changed again. At this moment, the Myriad Arrow King, the instigator of all this, couldn't see where the real ball was. Pa! A beam of yellow light smashed behind the White Tiger King and bounced high. The White Tiger King lost. Myriad Arrow King, I underestimated you. I didn't expect your archery to have reached such a level. The White Tiger King had to admit that his ball skills were a bit worse than the other parties. White Tiger King, don't you know that the Myriad Arrow King can already compete with the captain and the other 2 in terms of ball skills? The one who spoke was a silver-robed young man. The silver-robed young man was the leader of the 4 great quasi-emperors, the Celestial River King. The Myriad Arrow King shook his head and sighed. It's just a few moves. Once they get serious, I can only last a few rounds at most. The 3 people that the Celestial River King mentioned were the 3 great battle emperors of the Paradise of God, namely the Vast Martial King, the Vermilion Bird King, and the Divine Saber King. The Vast Martial King had a terrifying talent in the martial Tao. The Vermilion Bird King's body was a Beast King Vermilion Bird, with a speed as fast as the speed of light. The Divine Saber King's saber skills were miraculous, and even ghosts and gods would find it hard to escape. These 3 were the peak powerhouses of the Paradise of God, and everyone's goal. Celestial River King, what's wrong? Don't you want to compare notes with the Myriad Arrow King? The White Tiger King originally thought that the Celestial River King would take the field, but after hearing his words, he seemed to think that he was not the opponent of the Myriad Arrow King. I'm not sure if I can handle his ever-changing skills. The Celestial River King shook his head and smiled bitterly. The White Tiger King remained silent. In terms of strength, he had more than 50% confidence in defeating the Myriad Arrow King. However, when it came to ball skills, he and the Celestial River King were indeed not the opponents of the Myriad Arrow King. He estimated that only the Vast Martial King and the others could beat him. Yi Chen, actually, I think you can exchange a few moves with the Myriad Arrow King. Although his ever-changing skills have more variations than my Heavenly Maiden scattering flowers, with your eyesight, you should be able to narrow it down to 10 balls. Huang Fuyu greatly admired Yi Chen's eyesight. Moreover, Yi Chen's cultivation base was now at the 5th heavenly layer of life and death realm, which meant that he was much stronger than before. My confidence is too small, no more than 30%. Yi Chen, on the other hand, was not very optimistic. In terms of eyesight, Thousand Arrow King, who was an archery expert, was not inferior to him. In terms of technique, he had stayed in the paradise of gods for hundreds of years. In terms of cultivation base, he was a 5th-layer life and death realm expert, while the other was a 6th-layer life and death realm expert. His only advantage was soul power. Soul power was different from eyesight. Eyesight was actually insight, while soul power was sensing. Sensing first, then insight. Therefore, his reaction speed was very fast, and he rarely had to be on the passive side. However, just because his soul power was strong didn't mean that he could defeat the Myriad Arrow King. The opponent's ever-changing skills were not static, but constantly changing. Even if he could sense it, he might not be able to do it. It was like someone waving a fist at you, and you could see the fist coming at you, but you might not be able to dodge it. In other words, the opponent had the strength of the 9th floor of the God of War pagoda, while he had the strength of the 7th floor. The gap between them couldn't be ignored. The 3 battle emperors didn't come. After Myriad Arrow King won 4 matches in a row, he felt bored and left the stage. Seeing that Myriad Arrow King, White Tiger King, and Galaxy River King didn't come up, the other half-emperors became lively and invited others to compete. In the afternoon, these half-emperors left one after another. I wonder how strong the 8th floor's opponent is. Although his strength had increased by 3 to 4 times, Yi Chen only had the confidence to pass the 7th floor. As for the 8th floor, he didn't even have 10% confidence. According to Huang Fuyu, the 8th floor's difficulty was 5 to 6 times higher than the 7th floor. In the God of War pagoda, Yi Chen directly arrived at the 7th floor. The 7th floor's opponent was a barbarian, a true barbarian. He had many tattoos on his body and a white bone necklace on his neck. His bald head shone brightly, as if it was cast from steel. Last time, Yi Chen had been beaten miserably by this barbarian. His sword chi could only cut through the opponent's skin and couldn't penetrate deep. Moreover, the opponent's weapon was an axe, which was as heavy as a mountain. Just the pressure from the axe alone made one feel like vomiting blood. Come on! Without using the 3 flowers borrowing technique, Yi Chen faced his opponent head-on. Ding ding ding! The axe clashed with the dragon spring sword, sparks flying everywhere. With a swoosh, Yi Chen's figure flashed and suddenly appeared behind his opponent, chopping off his opponent's left arm. My cultivation has reached the 5th heaven of life and death realm, and my Zhen Yuan is leaning toward Sword Yuan. My power has indeed increased a lot. Unforgiving, Yi Chen's sword art was like a venomous snake. Once he attacked, it would be a fatal blow. Soon, the barbarian couldn't hold on any longer, and his body was torn into pieces. In the next moment, Yi Chen arrived at the 8th floor of the God of War pagoda. Chapter 1098. The 8th floor's opponent was a Yiksha king, whose skin was no different from a human's. In the Yiksha race, those with gray skin were ordinary Yikshas, those with light gray skin were mid-level Yikshas, and those with human-like skin were high-level Yikshas. At the same realm, the higher the bloodline grade, the stronger the battle strength. This Yiksha king was the guardian of the 8th floor of the God of War pagoda, so he must be terrifyingly powerful. Without any nonsense, the Yiksha king stabbed his spear at Yi Chen. The Yiksha race usually liked to use spears. So fast. This spear was so fast that it looked like a flash of light. Slightly shifting his body, Yi Chen blocked the spear with his sword and punched at the Yiksha king's chest with his left hand. The Yiksha king reacted extremely fast, as he also formed a fist with his left hand and clashed with Yi Chen's fist. Dong! Yi Chen was pushed back a few hundred meters, leaving a trail of qi behind him. 6th level life and death realm, 6th level spirit body, peak 6th level will. Apart from martial will, the Yiksha king's attributes were much higher than Yi Chen's. If not for Yi Chen using the 4th drive and the protection of his sword intent, the Yiksha king's punch would have shattered Yi Chen's left arm and destroyed his body. A terrifying aura erupted from Yi Chen's body, and 3 different colored flowers appeared above Yi Chen's head. As the 3 flowers appeared, Yi Chen's essence, qi, and soul surged, and his hair fluttered in the wind. Myriad flower snatch. With a wave of his sword, thousands of sword shadows flew out and bombarded the Yiksha king's protective energy barrier, making clanking sounds. Although they couldn't break through the Yiksha king's defense, They forced him back. For a moment, he couldn't gather his energy to counterattack. After the first attack was effective, Yichen followed up with a second attack. This time it was the wood and fire profound sword move burning spring fire. The sparks turned into a prairie fire that engulfed the Wuxia king. The Wuxia king was the guardian of the 8th floor after all. Although he couldn't counterattack, he could still block. The spear in his hand slashed left and right, shattering one flaming sword light after another. Heavenly lightning and earthly fire. At this moment, Yichen's sword aura changed. The prairie fire turned into heavenly lightning and earthly fire. Beams of lightning and fire sword light shot towards Wuxia king like a meteor shower. Wuxia king was slightly careless, and was immediately pierced through by a beam of lightning and fire sword light. His left shoulder was charred black and smoke rose in spirals. Ha! Wuxia king roared and smashed all the lightning and fire swords with his spear. Die! By the time the fiery and thunder-like sword light dissipated, Yichen's silhouette had already disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already on the left side of the Wuxia king. He flicked the dragon spring sword and thrust it forward. The bleak and desolate aura of autumn spread out, and the sword light was chilly. Metal and water profound sword move, autumn's slaughter. Just as the tip of the sword pierced through Wuxia king's skin, Wuxia king's left hand grabbed the sword at lightning speed, making it impossible for the dragon spring sword to advance any further. Wuxia king's palm was unimaginably hard. Oomph! Yichen snorted coldly. He twisted the dragon spring sword and pulled it out. Wuxia king's left hand's 5 fingers were immediately broken. Without his left hand to block, Yichen used autumn's slaughter again, and pierced through Wuxia king's heart. Just as the sword light was about to explode, Yichen's scalp suddenly went numb. His entire body flew backwards like a bird, dodging Wuxia king's total annihilation. On the ground to his left, a huge canyon was split open, stretching all the way to the horizon. Just now, it looked like they were going to perish together. But in fact, Yichen knew that his sword attack couldn't kill Wuxia king, and Wuxia king's total annihilation could turn him into a bloody mist. Even his protective sword intent couldn't block it. The 8th level of the God of War pagoda was more than 5 to 6 times harder than the 7th level. If not for his superb battle techniques, Yichen wouldn't even be able to threaten Wuxia king. Although his techniques are not as good as mine, there are too few flaws to exploit. That series of attacks just now was Yichen's test. He wanted to see if he could use techniques to kill Wuxia king. But it was obvious that the God of War pagoda didn't have such flaws. If he wanted to defeat Wuxia king, he had to use absolute strength. Since that's the case, let's see how strong you are. Abandoning all techniques, Yichen slashed out directly. The violent sword aura transformed into a white dragon and swooped down. Profound truths of water and fire. White dragon destroys the world. Wuxia king's face was expressionless. He raised his bronze spear high and suddenly slashed down. The huge spear shadow was like a heavenly pillar, smashing the white dragon into pieces. Seeing that Wuxia king had destroyed the white dragon destroys the world so easily, Yichen smiled bitterly. He knew that even his most powerful instant of glory wouldn't be able to do anything to Wuxia king. At most, Wuxia king would be slightly injured. Furthermore, Wuxia king hadn't used any powerful moves yet. As expected, instant of glory couldn't completely suppress Wuxia king. Wuxia king paid the price of losing his left arm. Wuxia king held the bronze spear in his right hand and thrust it forward. The tip of the spear condensed into a huge sun. Yichen couldn't dodge at all, and was burned into nothingness by the sun. After reaching the 8th level of the God of War pagoda, Yichen wasn't in a hurry to enter the survival pagoda. Yichen was currently on the 7th level of the survival pagoda. If he reached the 8th level, he would become a high-level member. Yichen wasn't ready to enter the high-level hunting battlefield yet. The high-level hunting battlefield was a paradise for battle thearchs and sub-thearchs. No matter how strong one's survivability was, it would be difficult to move an inch in there. One had to know that from the 8th level to the 9th level of the God of War pagoda, the difficulty had increased by more than 10 times. It wasn't as simple as a few times before. In a situation where there was a difference of 10 times in strength, the instant of sword domain and instant of glory were useless. Of course, Yi Chen could also let a high-level team carry him. But Yi Chen didn't like to be a burden. The hunting battlefield wasn't a game. If one wasn't careful, there would be heavy casualties. This was a cruel battlefield, and there was no room for carelessness. The reward for reaching the 7th level of the God of War pagoda was 3,000 divine coins. It was a good reward. If he could also pass the 8th level, the reward would be even higher. The reward for reaching the 8th level was 10,000 divine coins. Yi Chen had only reached the 8th level of the God of War pagoda, and hadn't passed it yet. In addition, if he could pass the 8th level of the God of War pagoda, which was the 9th level, and become a high-level member, he would be eligible to use divine coins to exchange for a set. The most ordinary Heavenly King set would cost 300,000 divine coins, a mid-level Heavenly King set would cost 1 million divine coins, and a high-level Heavenly King set would cost 5 million divine coins. It could be said that the higher the level, the more divine coins would be needed. One could never have too many divine coins, only too few. Yi Chen currently only had a little more than 40,000 divine coins, which was far from enough. After leaving the survival pagoda, Yi Chen went to the hotel for a drink. There were many people in the hotel. Looking around, Yi Chen found that all the sub-thearchs who had played in the Thunderbolt Stadium were here, such as the Galactic River King, White Tiger King, Thousand Arrow King, Purple Lightning Spear King, etc. Finding a corner to sit down, Yi Chen bought 10 bottles of Ice and Fire 9 Heavens to drink. "Brother, you don't mind if I sit here, right?" A young man in yellow walked over. Surprise flashed across Yi Chen's face. This young man in yellow had the strength of a sub-thearch. According to Huang Fuyu, he was called the Sky-Splitting King, and his strength was not much weaker than the Purple Lightning Spear King. Nodding, Yi Chen said, "I don't mind, sit down." "Many thanks." The Sky-Splitting King smiled and sat down. Ice and Fire 9 Heavens. This wine is not bad, but we high-level members rarely drink it. We drink magma wine and ice sea wine. Magma wine costs 50 divine coins per bottle, and ice sea wine costs 30 divine coins per bottle. Come try it, I'm sure you'll like it. The Sky-Splitting King handed Yi Chen a bottle of magma wine and ice sea wine. Magma wine, ice sea wine? Yi Chen asked curiously, why can't we buy them? Haha, in the paradise of gods, some things are only available to high-level members, and the treatment is different. Of course, junior and intermediate members can't afford it. The Sky-Splitting King explained, the magma wine costs 50 divine coins per bottle, and the ice sea wine costs 30 divine coins per bottle. Ordinary people indeed couldn't afford it, just like how Huang Hengfei couldn't bear to drink the Ice and Fire 9 Heavens. Opening the cork, Yi Chen tilted his head back and drank a mouthful of the magma wine. Boom! As the wine entered his body, Yi Chen felt as if his entire body was erupting like a volcano. All his cells became active, constantly absorbing the wine's energy. Good wine. The effect of tempering the spirit body is several times better than the Ice and Fire 9 Heavens. Yi Chen praised. Putting down the magma wine, Yi Chen drank another mouthful of ice sea wine. Ice sea wine was different from the magma wine. It made Yi Chen's soul extremely calm. So calm that even if the sky collapsed he wouldn't care. The magma wine tempers the spirit body, while the ice sea wine tempers the mind. Outside, only titled monarchs can drink these two wines frequently. The Sky-Splitting King leisurely drank a mouthful of wine, his movements extremely elegant. Both are good wines, but it's a pity that they're only available to high-ranked members. After drinking the magma wine and ice sea wine, Yi Chen felt that the taste of the Ice and Fire 9 Heavens wasn't as refreshing as before, and he couldn't help but smile bitterly. With your improvement speed, becoming a high-ranked member is just around the corner, and my paradise of gods will have another fierce general. The Sky-Splitting King clearly knew Yi Chen and laughed. You're too kind, I'm still far from it. Not to mention others, just the Sky-Splitting King alone was probably 10 times stronger than him. Among the quasi-emperors, he was an elite like the Purple Lightning Spear King. The Sky-Splitting King sighed. In a paradise, although the strength of a quasi-emperor is important, it's not enough to control the situation. Only the strength of a battle emperor can suppress everyone. You have great potential to become a battle emperor. and your low strength now doesn't mean anything. After all, you've only been in the paradise of gods for 2 years, and if you're given a few more decades, it's hard to say. Everyone wanted to reach the strength of a battle emperor, but everyone had their own limits. Chapter 1099. When you become a high-level member, you will understand how powerful the demon god paradise is. If you are not united, you will be annihilated by them. Therefore, every time we hunt, we will move as a group. This way, we can take care of each other in the hunting battlefield. You have to remember that the Wuxia race, evil spirit race, and demons are in an alliance with the demons. The barbarian race, giant race, and us humans are in an alliance. This alliance is equally effective in the hunting battlefield. Of course, under no circumstances should you entrust your fate to others. There will be internal conflicts between races, let alone alliances. Understood. Yichen nodded. After taking a sip of wine, the sky-splitting king continued. Actually, it's not only in the hunting battlefield. In the outside world, we are also at odds with the geniuses of the enemy races. The demons are our greatest enemies, and we want to kill them. However, every time there is a war, it is the human race that suffers. The demons are a super race with all kinds of branches. There are as many geniuses as there are stars in the sky. It is not an exaggeration to say that a single demon is equivalent to 30% of the power of the universe, and the top combat power of the demons is at the peak of the universe. Do you know the Dark Witch and Dark Goddess of the demons? The sky-splitting king asked. Dark Witch? Yichen nodded slightly. Morong had the bloodline of the Dark Witch. As for the Dark Goddess, he did not know about her. But she should not be weaker than the Dark Goddess. The Dark Witch and Dark Goddess have the sacred bloodline of the demons. They are few in number, and their combat power is unparalleled. Any one of them can cause a bloodbath. Currently, in the demon god paradise, there is a Dark Goddess who has the strength of a combat emperor. She is the strongest among all the combat emperors. I have seen the Dark Goddess from afar, but I am ashamed that I do not even have the courage to fight her. The sky-splitting king said bitterly. Yichen didn't speak. The universe was boundless and boundless, with hundreds of races standing in great numbers. Any powerful genius wouldn't surprise him. At this moment he somewhat missed the people of true spirit world. However, he couldn't go back yet. If his guess was right, there would certainly be titled monarchs of demonic race guarding the true spirit world. Without sufficient strength, he would only be throwing his life away. At the very least, he would have to reach the 10th floor of War God Pagoda and possess the strength of a battle emperor. I'm not telling you this because I want you to join our team in the future. It's because I can feel an indescribable aura from you. This aura is very calming. If you continue to improve at your current rate, you'll very likely become the leader of the paradise of God in the future and lead us to fight against the demon geniuses. The sky-splitting king had a special ability since he was very young. This special ability was a premonition, a kind of intuition. For example, when he was about to encounter danger, he would feel a sense of danger. The greater the danger, the stronger the sense of danger. This ability could not only be used on him, but also on others. His friends had avoided danger many times because of this ability. Similarly, this special ability could also allow him to see a deeper level of aura that others could not. Sky-splitting king, what are you guys talking about? A beautiful lady in colorful clothes walked over. The sky-splitting king smiled. Nothing much. Come, let me introduce you. This is the super rookie Yichen. He is currently a member of the Frost Battle team. Yichen, she is the Rainbow King. Like me, we are both from the Vermilion Bird Battle team. So you are Yichen. I have been wanting to meet you for a long time. Hearing this, the Rainbow King looked at Yichen curiously. There were 3 powerful rookies in this divine trials, and each of them was very impressive. Among them, the most legendary one was undoubtedly Yichen. He had just entered the paradise of gods, but he already had the strength of the 4th level of the God of War Pagoda. After 2 years, he had already become a mid-level member and joined the Frost Battle team. His progress was very fast. Yichen smiled and invited the Rainbow King to take a seat. Sky-splitting king, I see that you and him are very congenial. Did you discover something? The Rainbow King secretly sent a voice transmission to the Sky-Splitting King. The Sky-Splitting King did not hide anything and replied, I don't know if it is my imagination, but I have a feeling that his future will be very glorious. Glorious? This is very normal. We are all quasi-emperors. Which one of us won't have a glorious future? To be able to become a member of the paradise of gods, one's future might not be glorious, but at least it was bright and promising. And to be able to reach the 9th level of the God of War pagoda, and have the strength of a quasi-emperor, one's future could only be described as glorious. Of course, the prerequisite was that one didn't die. No, I feel a very unique aura from him. This aura makes me very calm. Although the Cheongwu King, the Vermilion Bird King, and the Divine Blade King also have this aura, it is very weak. But he has a very strong aura like the sun. Is it that exaggerated? The Rainbow King knew the Sky-Splitting King's ability, but he was still skeptical. Even if I tell you all this, you probably don't understand. Forget it, we will see his achievements in the future. Then we will know if my feeling is wrong. Actually, the Sky-Splitting King was not very sure himself. Some things could only be proved with time. The three chatted for a while. Suddenly, a strong energy wave came from outside the hotel, like an earthquake. There were people fighting, and both sides were terrifyingly strong. This energy? It is the leader and the Divine Blade King fighting. The Sky-Splitting King's senses were very sharp. Let's go and take a look. The Rainbow King stood up. Not far from the hotel, there was a huge empty space. This empty space was used for sparring. At this moment, two figures were fighting intensely. One was wearing a fiery red robe. His hair was like flames, and his body was releasing shocking heat. The other was holding a black long blade, and when the blade light flashed, thunder exploded. It is the Vermilion Bird King and the Divine Blade King. Why are they fighting? They should be testing how much they have improved. The two's battle caused a huge commotion. More and more people rushed over discussing. Sky-Splitting King, do you think the leader has the upper hand this time, or the Divine Blade King? Seeing the battle between the Vermilion Bird King and the Divine Blade King, the Rainbow King was not surprised at all. The three battle emperors of the Paradise of Gods often sparred with each other. Sometimes, it would be the Vermilion Bird King against the Divine Blade King, and sometimes it would be the Vermilion Bird King against the Divine Blade King. Among the three, the Cheongwu King was the strongest, and he had almost never lost. The Sky-Splitting King muttered, It is hard to say. The leader and the Divine Blade King are equally strong. It is possible that one of them has the upper hand. You are right. The Rainbow King nodded. Divine Blade King. This is the second-rank pinnacle martial art that I have recently created, Star Flame Divine Fist. Take this. The Vermilion Bird King's right fist was like a burning hot iron, glowing red as it punched towards the Divine Blade King. The Vermilion Bird King's attack speed was very fast. With one punch, it reached the Divine Blade King in an instant. The Divine Blade King could only raise his long blade to block. Clang! Countless sparks exploded. This punch was unimaginably powerful. The Divine Blade King was blown tens of li away, crashing into the protective barrier at the edge of the empty ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Such a powerful attack. Yichen said in shock. The Sky-Splitting King laughed. Actually, among the three great battle emperors, the Cheong Martial King and the Divine Blade King have both created third-rank martial arts. Only our leader, the Vermilion Bird King, hasn't created a third-rank martial art. However, our leader's original body is the Beast King Vermilion Bird. Under the situation where their martial arts realms are the same, our leader's strength is more than 10 times stronger. Nodding his head, Yichen knew that the comprehension of demonic beasts was not as good as humans. It was already very impressive for the Vermilion Bird King to be able to create a second-rank pinnacle martial art. The strength of his comprehension was not any weaker than some of the top human geniuses. However, the Vermilion Bird King was a beast king after all. The strength of its origin power allowed it to stand above the masses. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, the Divine Blade King sneered. Vermilion Bird King, this punch of yours can only make me spit out a mouthful of blood. I wonder if you will be able to take my shadow thunder sky flash slash. Swoosh. The Divine Blade King raised his long blade up high and slashed out rapidly. In the next moment, the blade light dazzled everyone's eyes. Vaguely, everyone could see countless light black blade lights flying towards the Vermilion Bird King. Although the Vermilion Bird King's speed was fast, the blade lights were even faster. Moreover, there were too many blade lights. There was no way to avoid them. With a serious expression, he avoided the area where the attacks were the most concentrated. Immediately, he crossed his arms and chose to block. Clang 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 clang. Black and red interweaving sparks burst out from the Vermilion Bird King's body. In an instant, the Vermilion Bird King suffered hundreds and thousands of attacks. Third-rank martial art. It was Yi Chen's first time seeing a third-rank martial art. The Divine Blade King's Shadow Thunder Sky Flash Slash contained 3 types of profound meaning, namely the profound meaning of Yin, the profound meaning of thunder, and the profound meaning of light. Although these 3 profound meanings were not completely integrated, and there were traces to follow, it was still a third-rank martial art after all. It was not an exaggeration to say that any one of the countless blade lights attacking the Vermilion Bird King could easily kill him, without any suspense. Seeing the Divine Blade King, Yi Chen knew how big the gap between him and the Battle Emperor was. As for the Vermilion Bird King and Yi Chen, they were not the same type. The Vermilion Bird King relied on his innate talent as a demonic beast. Ajiu, Lung Fifan, and the others were also watching the battle from the side. Ajiu's eyes were filled with a strong battle intent. This battle intent was so strong that it was almost burning. It turned out that the Battle Emperor was so strong. The gap between him and the Battle Emperor was at least 100 times. He had only recently reached the 6th level of the God of War Pagoda. He, who was a little relaxed, once again burst forth with an unimaginable battle intent. One day, I will also stand at the peak. When I raise every type of martial art to a certain level, who can be my opponent? Ajiu said firmly in his heart. Lung Fifan's attention was completely focused on the Divine Blade King. As a saber user, Lung Fifan could feel the terror of the Shadow Thunder Sky Flash Slash. Chapter 1100. Blood splattered. Vermilion Bird King was injured. His arms were covered with dense knife marks. Although they were not deep, they undoubtedly broke through Vermilion Bird King's defense. Boom! Scarlet flames erupted, and the knife marks were refined. Vermilion Bird King looked up at Divine Saber Monarch. What a good shady thunder sky flashing slash. It actually broke my fiery red tyrant body. Fiery red tyrant body was a protective martial art passed down in the Vermilion Bird clan. This martial art was very unique and could increase the defense of a demon body by several times. With the fiery red tyrant body, Vermilion Bird King did not need to cultivate other defensive martial arts, and only needed to focus on offensive martial arts. Although Divine Saber Monarch's Shady Thunder Sky Flashing Slash was strong, it could barely break through his defense. Same here. Divine Saber Monarch frowned. The last time they fought, Vermilion Bird King's defense was not this strong. He did not expect that in a few years, there would be a big breakthrough. It's a draw. Vermilion Bird King's Starfire Divine Fist made Divine Saber Monarch vomit blood, while Divine Saber Monarch's Shady Thunder Sky Flashing Slash broke through Vermilion Bird King's defense and gave him a superficial wound. Too strong. Is this the strength of a Battle Emperor? They can probably seriously injure us with just a wave of chi. That's natural. Battle Emperors are more than 10 times stronger than ordinary Quasi-Emperors. They are also much stronger than peak Quasi-Emperors. Yes, those who have just reached the 9th floor of the God of War Pagoda are ordinary Quasi-Emperors. Those Quasi-Emperors who are about to pass the 9th floor are peak Quasi-Emperors. Vermilion Bird King and Divine Saber Monarch reached the 10th floor 50 years ago. They should be ordinary Battle Emperors. They are much stronger than peak Quasi-Emperors like Galactic River King and White Tiger King. The spectators discussed animatedly, each expressing their own opinions. Yi Chen nodded when he heard everyone's words. There was a difference in strength between the 9th and 10th floor of the God of War Pagoda. For example, one had just reached the 9th floor, and the other was about to pass the 9th floor. The gap between the two was estimated to be 6 or 7 times, not to mention battle emperors. As for Yi Chen himself, he should be above average in the 8th floor of the God of War pagoda. There was still a long way to go before he could pass the 8th floor. The gap between him and battle emperors was more than 100 times. Of course, 10 times, or even 100 times was a very mysterious metaphor. Take an ordinary person for example. A slightly stronger adult could fight against 2 ordinary adults. This was twice the combat power. But could this mean that their quality was twice the difference? That was impossible. The difference in quality between Yi Chen and a battle arch wasn't 100-fold. At most, it was 10 times. The more powerful a martial artist was, the higher their quality was, the stronger their combat strength would be. This was mainly because an individual had too many qualities, and when they were combined together, it would be called combat strength. Combat strength was a comprehensive embodiment. You two have improved a lot. In the distance, a figure shot over and landed in the crowd. This person wore a long gray robe with a huge black martial character embroidered on the back. He was nearly 2 meters tall, with broad shoulders and a slim waist. His eyes were unfathomable. It's King Qiongwu. King Qiongwu is here. The young man in the gray robe was the leader of the 3 battle thearchs in the Paradise of Gods, King Qiongwu. Every paradise had a leader. King Qiongwu had reached the 10th level of the God of War pagoda 100 years ago, earlier than Vermilion Bird King and Divine Saber King. At that time, there were 4 battle thearchs in the Paradise of Gods. Apart from King Qiongwu, 1 died, and 2 left the Paradise of Gods. King Qiongwu should have the strength of a mid-level battle arch. He once used the secret art Hand of Martial to crush a peak stage sub-thearch and a planet. The sky-splitting king had a hint of respect on his face. Hand of Martial? Crush a peak stage sub-thearch in a planet? Yi Chen was very clear that crushing a planet and destroying it were 2 different concepts. For a normal person with great strength, he might be able to break a brick, but for him to crush a brick, it would be impossible. King Qiongwu, you're here. Vermilion Bird King and Divine Saber King didn't want to continue fighting. They looked at King Qiongwu. King Qiongwu smiled and said, "We will enter the hunting ground in 1 day. Come, let's drink until we're drunk." They had already agreed on the time to enter the hunting ground. When the time came, they would come out separately. "Okay, this time it's my treat." Divine Saber King nodded. "Then you'll have to spend a lot of money. I won't get drunk without dozens of bottles of wine." The 3 walked side by side to the hotel. As for the others, they were not qualified to walk side by side with them, even if they didn't mind. In a flash, 8 days passed. At the entrance of the hunting tower, one by one, quasi-emperors came out. Sigh, I didn't expect King Zishan to fall. The high-level hunting battlefield is getting more and more cruel. King Zishan was one of the 4 quasi-emperors. His death was indeed unexpected, but it's understandable that the person who killed him was Evil Child King of the Evil God Paradise. King Zishan, one of the 4 great quasi-emperors of the Paradise of Gods, ranked 4th behind the Celestial River King, White Tiger King, and 10,000 Arrow King. King Zishan excelled in defense. Even the Celestial River King would not be able to break through his defense in a short time. However, he unfortunately encountered the Evil Child King and ended up being hunted down. Evil Child King, the strongest quasi-emperor of the Evil God Paradise, was also one of the 2 strongest quasi-emperors in the entire high-level hunting battlefield. The other one was the Silver King of the Giant Spirit Divine Paradise. Evil Child King was a peerless genius. Less than 10 years after entering the Evil God Paradise, he broke through to the 9th floor of the God of War pagoda. It was said that because of his fast cultivation speed, he maintained the appearance of a 13-year-old boy. Therefore, he was called Evil Child King. In addition, Evil Child King had a terrifying record. He had escaped from several battle emperors. Once was the Giant Head King of the Giant Spirit Divine Paradise. The other time was the Barbarian Bone King of the Barbarian God Paradise. And the last time was the Divine Saber King of the Paradise of Gods. It could be said that his fierce reputation in the high-level hunting battlefield was no weaker than that of ordinary battle emperors. Walking at the back were the 3 battle emperors, the Qiongwu King, the Vermilion Bird King, and the Divine Saber King. The Vermilion Bird King said in a deep voice, "This time, the Paradise of Gods lost a total of 4 quasi-emperors, one more than last year. In the past 5 years, there have been no more quasi-emperors." The Qiongwu King sighed, "We are still fine. Although the giant spirit Divine Paradise only lost 1 quasi-emperor, they also lost a battle emperor. The price was heavy. Every battle emperor was precious. They were the stabilizing force and the backbone of the Paradise of Gods. I can only say that he was very unlucky to have encountered the dark goddess of the demonic god Paradise. If it were us, I reckon that only the Qiongwu King could have escaped," the Divine Saber King said slowly. In the high-grade hunting battlefield, there were 2 strongest quasi-emperors and 3 battle emperors. The 2 strongest quasi-emperors were the Evil Child King and the Silver King. The 3 battle emperors were the Barbarian God Paradise's Barbarian Bone King, the Yiksha God Paradise's Blood Spear King, and the Demon God Paradise's Blessed Queen Dark Goddess. The Dark Goddess bloodline was a powerful bloodline blessed by the Demon God. Among the demons, they had a pivotal position. They could activate the blessed halo, and their battle prowess would multiply. Their terrifying strength was enough to crush any opponent of the same realm. Fortunately, the Dark Goddess did not have the astonishing speed of the Dark Witch. Otherwise, they would be everyone's nightmare. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's go and drink. The next hunt will be another year later. The Qiongwu King let out a heavy breath and walked towards the hotel. The cruelty of the high-grade hunting battlefield had nothing to do with Yi Chun. He spent most of his time practicing martial arts to build a good foundation for creating a 3rd-grade martial art. Spring passed and autumn came, year after year. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. In the intermediate hunting battlefield, "Run! It's the Frost Battle team from the Paradise of Gods." In the distance, a middle-grade team from the Yiksha God Paradise immediately fled when they sensed the arrival of the Frost Battle team. They did not hesitate at all. It was as if the Frost Battle team was some kind of demon. "Everyone stay here." 3 flowers of different colors appeared above Yi Chen's head. His speed doubled, and in a short while, he was 10,000 li behind them. Wang, in an instant, the sword domain expanded to its limit, enveloping 4 members of the Yiksha God Paradise who were slightly slower. It caused their speed to decrease by several times, as if they were stuck in a swamp. "Damn it, let's fight it out with him. If we run, we'll only die." Being enveloped by the sword domain, the 4 Yiksha Kings were determined to die. They turned around and charged towards Yi Chun. "Others say that you're the Grim Reaper of the intermediate hunting battlefield, but I don't believe it. Come, let's see how you can block the combined attack of the 4 of us." In the first 2 years of the 3 years, Yi Chun had become famous in the intermediate hunting battlefield. In the past year, Yi Chun had become the Grim Reaper of the intermediate hunting battlefield. Any team that encountered them would be severely injured, and no one would be able to escape. Even the few strong teams in the intermediate hunting battlefield were no exception. As time passed, Yi Chun and the Frost Battle team became a taboo in the intermediate hunting battlefield. Everyone kept a respectful distance from them, and when they encountered them, their only thought was to run. This was also the reason why the scene just now had happened. Boom, 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 boom. The 4 Yiksha Kings each used their ultimate moves, blasting towards Yi Chun with ferocious expressions. If it were in the past, facing the 4 Yiksha Kings together, Yi Chun would definitely use Moment of Glory or White Dragon Destroyer, because only these 2 attacks could compete with him. But right now, Yi Chun did not choose to use Moment of Glory or White Dragon Destroyer. Instead, he used his Burning Spring Burning Art. The huge sword chi turned into a boundless fire that swept toward the 4 of them. Puff, 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 puff. Their ultimate moves collapsed one after another, like snow meeting the scorching sun, vanishing without a trace. The powerful wave of fire that had yet to dissipate completely drowned them, leaving behind only ashes and indestructible armor and weapons. "Run!" The 2 Yiksha Kings who were running the fastest turned around and saw this scene. Chapter 11:01. Huang Fuyu had guessed correctly. More than 9 months ago, Yi Chen already had the strength of a quasi-emperor. At that time, he had already upgraded the White Dragon Exterminating World, Heavenly Lightning Hellfire, Raging Flames of Spring, Killing Autumn, and Life-Snatching 10,000 to the level of Extreme Martial Arts of the second rank. The so-called Extreme Martial Arts of the second rank were not simply determined by power. It also depended on the degree of integration of the profoundness and the degree of martial arts exertion. If the two profoundness were perfectly integrated, the martial arts they carried could fully exert the power of the integrated profoundness. Then it meant that your second-rank martial arts had been upgraded to the limit. Do not underestimate the extreme martial arts of the second rank. It was the key to creating a third-rank martial art. If one could not even reach the level of the extreme martial arts of the second rank, then it would never be possible to create a third-rank martial art. Even if it was created, it would be incomplete and unable to be perfected. Among the 5 extreme martial arts of the second rank, the White Dragon Exterminating World was the strongest. It was already equivalent to an ordinary third-rank martial art. It was terrifyingly powerful, and had the power to destroy the world in a small area. Next, the Heavenly Lightning Hellfire, Raging Flames of Spring, Killing Autumn, and Life-Snatching 10,000 were equally powerful. The Heavenly Lightning Hellfire was superior in its attacking power. The Raging Flames of Spring could burn the enemy to ashes. The Life-Snatching 10,000 could penetrate the enemy's defense. Originally, with the strength of a quasi-emperor, one had to enter the high-level hunting battlefield. However, Yi Chen was not in a hurry to become a high-level member. He knew that with his strength at that time, if he entered the high-level hunting battlefield, he would only be a middle-level quasi-emperor. If he encountered a strong enemy, he would not be able to compete, so he did not challenge the God of War Pagoda and the Survival Pagoda. However, the rules of the intermediate hunting battlefield sensed that he had the strength of a quasi-emperor. After 3 warnings, he was not allowed to enter the intermediate hunting battlefield, or the rules would kill him. This was the 3rd time. Yi Chen, do you have the strength of a quasi-emperor? Ho Lei and the others also rushed over. Su Xiao asked curiously. Yi Chen knew that he could not hide it, and there was no need to hide it. He nodded and said, "Yes, 9 months ago, I already had the strength of a quasi-emperor. The rules of the hunting battlefield also warned me that this would be my last hunt in the intermediate hunting battlefield. Next time, I will go to the high-level hunting battlefield." So it's true. Su Xiao's jaw dropped. In fact, they had long suspected that Yi Chen had the strength of a quasi-emperor, because Yi Chen was much stronger than Huang Fuyu. In the entire middle-grade hunting battlefield, no one was a match for Yi Chen. Congratulations. Huang Fuyu let out a sigh, and immediately smiled. Yi Chen continued. I've already talked to Jiao. He promised to join the Frost Battle team after I leave. With his strength, he shouldn't be a burden to you. Jiao's improvement was rather astonishing. If not for Yi Chen, he would be the member of the Paradise of Gods who improved the fastest. A few months ago, he had already reached the 7th level of the God of War Pagoda. According to him, his fist, palm, finger, and leg techniques had all improved greatly. His spear techniques had also caught up. Lung Fifan had joined the Flying Spirit Battle team a long time ago, and Jiao was about to join the Frost Battle team. These 2 teams were the teams that Yi Chen had been in before. Jiao! Ho Lei's eyes lit up. He was indeed reluctant to let Yi Chen leave. After all, with Yi Chen, the Frost Battle team would be feared. However, there was no other way. If Yi Chen didn't leave, he would be killed by the rules. He hadn't expected Yi Chen to be able to persuade Jiao to join the Frost Battle team. One had to know that Jiao was also very famous in the Paradise of Gods, and had a chance of becoming a battle emperor in the future. He's too strong. This kind of strength has already surpassed the 8th level of the God of War Pagoda. He's definitely a quasi-emperor. Damn it. He clearly has the strength of a quasi-emperor, but he still stays in the middle-grade hunting battlefield. The 2 Yiksha kings, who had just escaped, stopped in their tracks. They were furious. He can only be arrogant in the middle-grade hunting battlefield. When he reaches the high-grade hunting battlefield, he still has to act like a coward. I hope he will be killed in his first hunt. That's very likely. A newly born quasi-emperor is most likely to die in the first few hunts. Let's not talk about this. We are in danger now. We have to be vigilant and endure these few days. After walking out of the hunting pagoda, Yi Chen went straight to the God of War pagoda. At the 8th level of the God of War pagoda, boom! With a heavenly lightning earth and fire, Yi Chen killed the Yaksha king, whose skin was like a human's. In the next moment, Yi Chen arrived at the 9th level of the God of War pagoda. The 9th level's opponent was the black-robed evil king of the evil spirit race. As the guardian of the 9th level, the black-robed evil king's strength was undoubtedly very strong. He was stronger than all the other quasi-emperors. Defeating him would allow one to become a battle emperor. His strength was between a titled monarch and a peak 6th firmament king. Swish, 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 the black-robed evil king seemed to have no physical body. He could instantly turn into black smoke and instantly appear in front of Yi Chen. His palm was like an eagle's claw, and ink like black qi coiled around it. Through the protective Jin Yuan, Yi Chen could feel a bone-chilling cold intent pass over, numbing his nerves. Not daring to be careless, Yi Chen used the instant sword domain with all his strength, sharply reducing his opponent's attack speed. Then he slashed at that cold palm. Clang! Sparks flew, and Yi Chen retreated several steps while the black-robed evil king's body swayed. Raging fire incinerating spring, the huge sword qi transformed into a powerful wave of fire and rushed toward the black-robed evil king. The black-robed evil king was expressionless as he clasped his hands together and separated them. The powerful wave of fire was separated from the middle, unable to injure him in the slightest. Meanwhile, his right leg was like a venomous snake as it kicked out with a black shadow. A huge pit appeared on the ground, and Yi Chen was sent flying, spurting out a mouthful of cold blood. What a frightening cold qi! If not for the protective sword intent, this kick alone would have turned Yi Chen into an ice sculpture. In Yi Chen's eyes, the black-robed evil king's figure flickered incessantly. Each time it flickered, it would expand several times. In a few moments, the black-robed evil king filled Yi Chen's vision as a black fist punched over, covering the sky. Puff! Yi Chen was hit by the fist, turning into a black shadow and collapsing. This was a shadow. In the past 3 years, Yi Chen had not only created a second transition extreme martial art, but he had also created a second transition martial art, Shadow Divine Steps. The Shadow Divine Steps contain the profound of Yin and the profound of Shadow. He had only started to comprehend the profound of Yin in the past 3 years, and he had perfected it. Combined with the profound of Shadow, he could turn himself into a shadow that was between an illusory and a real one. Not only would he be able to move at lightning speed, but he could also split himself and take a fatal blow for himself. Unknowingly, Yi Chen had appeared behind the black-robed evil king on the right. He waved his sword, and the powerful sword qi condensed into a world-destroying white dragon, rushing toward the black-robed evil king at a high speed. The black-robed evil king was stronger than Yi Chen had imagined. He stretched out his right hand, and a black whirlpool appeared in his palm as he pressed his palm against the white dragon's head. Rumble! The white dragon exploded, and the black-robed evil king was sent flying hundreds of meters away, his clothes fluttering in the wind. I didn't expect him to be this strong. He has no flaws at all. Using the 3 flowers, Yi Chen's battle power increased by several folds. He rushed forward without any hesitation. He didn't even have time to perform his immortal body. At the entrance of the God of War pagoda, Yi Chen walked out. Limitless 3 tremors. Each tremor contains 3 layers of force. It's really terrifying. Yi Chen was amazed. He knew that if he couldn't defend or dodge the black-robed evil king's limitless 3 tremors, he wouldn't be able to pass the 9th level of the God of War pagoda, unless his attack power was strong enough to kill the black-robed evil king instantly. Although he had failed, he had gained a lot this time. He could even use Sun Essence Extreme Transformation, which he couldn't use previously. The Sun Essence Extreme Transformation contained the profound truths of fire, profound truths of light, and profound truths of yang. The profound truths of light and profound truths of yang had been comprehended and perfected in the past 3 years. Yi Chen's soul could bear many perfected profound truths, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough profound truths. In the paradise of gods, as long as one had enough Shimbi, one could comprehend profound truths to perfection in the Profound Truths Pagoda. Of course, others were very careful when choosing profound truths, as their soul's capacity was limited. Chapter 1102. In short, the birth of the extreme sun essence had increased Yi Chen's strength by twofold or threefold. Although the White Dragon Armageddon was stronger than a second job advancement martial art, and could barely match an ordinary third job advancement martial art, it was still inferior to the extreme sun essence. Furthermore, Yi Chen's extreme sun essence was slightly inferior to the Divine Saber King's Shadow Thunder Sky Flash. There were still many aspects that needed to be perfected. After reaching the 9th level of the God of War Pagoda, the insignia on the back of Yi Chen's hand turned dark green. This meant that he had become a high-level member and could enjoy the highest treatment in the paradise of gods. Next, Yi Chen went to the Survival Tower. 7th level of the Survival Tower, 10,000 Shimbi reward. 8th level of the Survival Tower, 30,000 Shimbi reward. Finally, Yi Chen reached the 9th level of the Survival Tower, just like the God of War Pagoda. The total reward was 50,000 Shimbi, 10,000 Shimbi for the God of War Pagoda, and 40,000 Shimbi for the Survival Tower. In addition to Yi Chen's original wealth, he had a total of 180,000 Shimbi. In the past 3 years, Yi Chen had earned a lot of Shimbi, but he had also spent a lot. Most of the Shimbi had been used on comprehending profound meaning, cultivating martial arts, and the Tower of Time. The reason why he had leftover was that Yi Chen wanted to collect 300,000 Shimbi to exchange for a low-level Heavenly King set. A Heavenly King set had at least 5 parts: armor, arm guards, leg guards, gloves, and boots. All 5 parts were Heavenly King level artifacts. Individually, their value was not very high, but when combined, it was worth 10 or 20 times more. A low-level Heavenly King set was worth as much as a top-tier Heavenly King level artifact, and could increase one's defense by several times. Not only that, but it could also increase one's combat power. Although it could not double or more, it was possible to increase it by 30 to 40%. Yi Chen already had a protective sword intent, and with the addition of a low-level Heavenly King set, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. However, it was not an easy task to collect 300,000 Shimbi. Without the profound mysteries of space, Yi Chen would not have been able to reach peak Quasi-Emperor strength in 5 to 6 years. This was because he did not have that many Shimbi to use for cultivation, and it was impossible for him to save up 150,000 Shimbi. It would already be pretty good if he had 10 or 20,000 Shimbi, and this was even if he lived frugally and did not spend it as he pleased. Yi Chen made a rough calculation. Most people would need several decades to accumulate 300,000 divine coins after they became quasi-emperors. As for stopping cultivating after becoming a quasi-emperor and saving up Shimbi, that was just neglecting the essentials. Gathering 300,000 Shimbi to exchange for a low-level Heavenly King set was to raise his power and increase his defense. But using Shimbi to cultivate was also to raise his power. There was no essential difference. To be honest, it was better to use it for cultivation, because in the process of gathering Shimbi, one could die in the hunting battlefield. Sometimes not improving meant regressing, as others were improving. Therefore, to gather Shimbi, one could only do it slowly. One could not become malnourished for the sake of gathering Shimbi. After becoming a high-ranking member, Yi Chen's time had also increased. He only needed to go hunting once a year. But as no one knew that he could reach quasi-emperor strength in such a short time, no high-ranking teams had invited him. As for those high-ranking members, they were either cultivating or spending Shimbi to leave the paradise of gods. Not even a shadow of them could be seen. Yi Chen could only wait. If it came down to it, he could not join a team for the first time and go hunting alone. In the inn, Yi Chen ordered 5 bottles of lava wine and 5 bottles of iced sea wine, drinking them alone. These 2 types of wine were only available to high-ranking members. Yi Chen, can you buy me a drink? A beautiful woman in green walked over with a hint of hope on her face. Yi Chen raised his head. He did not know the other party. Although he was a little puzzled, he still nodded. Sure, have a seat. Yi Chen handed over a bottle of lava wine. Thank you. My name is Lu Mei. Lu Mei sat down with a joyful expression. Lu Mei opened the cork and drank a mouthful of wine. She said in surprise, "What wine is this? Why have I never drunk it before? No, this wine is even stronger than the ice and fire nine heavens. The effect of tempering one's spirit body is many times stronger." Lu Mei was a mid-ranking member, and had only recently reached the 7th level of the God of War pagoda. Although the ice and fire nine heavens was expensive, she had also drunk it once. However, compared to the lava wine, the ice and fire nine heavens paled in comparison. This is lava wine. Only high-ranking members can buy it. Yi Chen said. Lava wine? Only high-ranking members can buy it? Lu Mei seemed to have thought of something. Have you already become a high-ranking member? Lu Mei's heart raced and her face turned red. She came over to chat up Yi Chen to see if there was a chance for her to date him. Those who could enter the paradise of gods were all geniuses. They were dragons and phoenixes among men. Because of their high status, they had very high standards, especially for women. Basically, the women of the paradise of gods would rarely find life partners outside. This was because they believed that only the men of the paradise of gods were worthy of them. Those outside were all mediocre. In the hearts of the women of the paradise of gods, the most popular were naturally the 3 battle emperors, followed by the half-emperors. Apart from them, Yi Chen, Ajiu, and Lung Fifan were also popular existences. Especially Yi Chen, his popularity was not inferior to the battle emperors. For a long time, no one had ever entered the paradise of gods with the strength of the 4th floor. Moreover, in a few short years, he had reached the 8th floor. This kind of potential was unheard of and unseen. However, today, Lu Mei discovered that everyone was still underestimating Yi Chen's potential. With Yi Chen's speed of improvement, he could easily break through to the 9th layer of life and death within 1,000 years, becoming the youngest sovereign. Looking at Lu Mei's expression, Yi Chen immediately understood. In truth, this was not the first time he had seen a woman expressing interest in him in the paradise of gods. Ice Frost battle teams, Su Xiao had once hinted at him. However, Yi Chen discovered that as his realm increased and his strength increased, it was hard for him to feel anything. It was as if all his thoughts were focused on martial Dao and sword Dao. Everything else was just fleeting clouds. Su Jing and Morong Qingqing were only concerned because they had interacted with him from the very beginning. I still have something to do. You can drink this wine. I'll take my leave first. Tactfully rejecting someone didn't have to be explicit. Yi Chen believed that the other party should understand his meaning. Standing up, Yi Chen smiled and walked out of the hotel. Unknowingly, the appointed time for the high-ranking members had arrived. Thunderbolt Stadium became lively once again. This time, the one in the limelight was still White Tiger King. Myriad Arrow King had yet to appear. White Tiger King, I'll fight you. Seeing that White Tiger King had already won 5 times in a row, Sky Sundering King walked down the stage. Sky Sundering King's battle strength was more or less the same as Purple Lightning Spear King. Most importantly, Sky Sundering King believed that his technique was better than Purple Lightning Spear King's. Sky Sundering King took the lead. After a few rounds, Sky Sundering King's right arm was extremely numb. White Tiger King's balls were powerful and heavy like cannons. Every time they struck back, Sky Sundering King's right arm would suffer a great burden. I can only use this move to decide the winner. Sky Splitting Monarch held the iron rod with both hands and struck the thunderball twice in a row. One strike landed on the upper half of the thunderball and the other on the lower half of the thunderball. The thunderball emitted an electric current and shot out at a frightening speed. Moreover, this thunderball was flat, and its intense rotation gave it a frightening cutting power. Sky Sundering King's ultimate move, Thunderbolt Cut. What a powerful ultimate move. On the spectator stand, Yi Chen nodded his head. The principle behind this ultimate move of Sky Sundering King was very simple. The thunderball was imbued with 2 rotational forces, one downwards and the other upwards. Although the directions were different, the left and right directions were the same. Finally, the two rotational forces converged together, compressing the thunderball into a flat shape. The rotational force then increased by several folds, producing a cutting power. Oh! White Tiger King's expression turned solemn. This move was indeed not easy to receive. The thunderball was flat, reducing the point of impact, and the cutting power was also very hard to neutralize. However, this was not a problem for White Tiger King. He held the iron rod with both hands and swung it upwards, striking the flat thunderball. The thunderball paused for a moment, and in the next moment, it flew back in a parabola. The cutting power was completely neutralized. Dang! Sky Sundering King's iron rod was sent flying, smashing into the metal wall. The descending ball was very powerful, and Sky Sundering King could no longer repel it. Yichen, you're here? Returning to the spectator stand, Sky Sundering King noticed Yichen sitting in the back row. Just arrived. Yichen nodded his head. Sky Sundering King's gaze unintentionally swept across the back of Yichen's hand and exclaimed, "Inky green insignia. You've become a high-ranking member?" Sky Sundering King's voice was very loud due to his shock. Immediately, everyone in the spectator stand looked over. It's Yichen. What, he's a high-ranking member? That's impossible, right? Although I don't dare to believe it, the inky green insignia on the back of his hand can't be faked. And there's no need to fake it. Genius, this is a true genius. Compared to him, we're far inferior. Previously, everyone's attention was focused on White Tiger King, but now they were all focused on Yichen. Yichen, you've really surprised me. Looks like my premonition was right. Sky Sundering King tried his best to calm his emotions. Where there's a will, there's a way. Everyone's fortune is different. Yichen appeared very calm. Being watched by 200 pairs of eyes didn't make him feel any pressure. Hee. White Tiger King was about to speak. Yichen, right? Come down and play. White Tiger King's voice resounded. Sky Sundering King smiled bitterly. Sorry, Yichen. Yichen's chances of winning against White Tiger King were very small. If not for him, Yichen wouldn't have attracted everyone's attention. Don't worry, my hands are also itching. Yichen calmly walked down the stage. You're quite famous. How about this? I'll control my cultivation base to the 5th layer, and have a fair battle. White Tiger King's cultivation base was at the 6th layer. In fact, 30% of the people in God Paradise were at the 6th layer. Chapter 1103. Bang! The thunderbolt ball was thrown high into the air. Yichen served. The ball was swift and fierce, and everyone's eyes lit up. Not bad. The White Tiger King held the metal rod, and the muscles on his right arm swelled. His arm was already as thick as a normal person's thigh, but now it was twice as thick. Boom! The ball had just arrived when the White Tiger King smacked it back with his rod. The terrifying force caused the thunderbolt ball to distort irregularly. Just looking at it was terrifying. It's indeed much more powerful than ordinary explosive balls. No wonder it's so powerful. The explosive ball was a kind of technique, a kind of ultimate move. The White Tiger King had turned the explosive ball into his normal ball. Furthermore, it was several times more powerful than ordinary explosive balls. It was fine to fight with him for a few rounds, but after a long time, even an Iron Man could not take it. In layman's terms, the White Tiger King's attack was called overwhelming strength. To deal with such an explosive ball, one had to either counterattack with greater strength, or resist with absolute technique. At the same level, pure strength was ultimately weaker than technique. The White Tiger King's ball was 80% strength, and 20% technique. Yichen's strength was probably only 10% or 20% of the White Tiger King's. Therefore, technique accounted for 80% or 90%. Holding the metal rod with both hands, Yichen locked onto the weakest point of the thunderbolt ball, and struck it. Fft. The thunderbolt ball vibrated twice before returning at an unimaginable speed. He counterattacked so easily. In the spectator seats, everyone was slightly surprised. Interesting. The White Tiger King continued to increase his strength. To him, strength was his advantage. As for technique, it was fine as long as it wasn't too weak. Boom. Boom. Boom! The thunderbolt ball that the White Tiger King shot was like a cannon bombardment. However, Yi Chen was still able to steadily counterattack. He had used 2 forces on the thunderball, and each force was the 3 drive. This was an ultimate move that he had developed based on the Evil King's limitless 3 tremors on the 9th level of the God of War pagoda. However, he was still unable to achieve the level of 3 tremors. After all, only a few months had passed. In the blink of an eye, 20 rounds had passed, and the competition between the 2 of them had reached its climax. The White Tiger King's brows furrowed even deeper. He was certain that Yi Chen's combined strength was less than 20% of his. However, Yi Chen's skills surprised him. According to the force feedback from the thunderbolt ball, he sensed that Yi Chen's ultimate move was very similar to the Evil King's limitless triple tremors on the 9th level of the God of War pagoda. He actually forced the black-robed Evil King to execute the 3 Sinluo tremors. His strength is not that of an ordinary quasi-emperor, but a peak quasi-emperor. After another dozen or so rounds, the White Tiger King gradually felt the strain. While he was exerting pressure on Yi Chen was also exerting pressure on him. Both sides were always on the same level. This can't go on. The White Tiger King took a deep breath, and a tiger's roar rang out from within his body. His aura rapidly swelled, causing him to grow even larger. Roar! With a swing of the cudgel, the thunderball transformed into a white tiger and dived towards Yi Chen. It appeared, the White Tiger King's White Tiger Killing Ball. Many people couldn't help but shout out. Oh, he actually forced out the White Tiger King's White Tiger Killing Ball? Unknowingly, the 10,000 Arrow King appeared in the audience and stood side by side with the Celestial River King. The Celestial River King praised, "The new generation surpasses the old. His skills are amazing. Playing the Thunderball requires a high foundation. The White Tiger King not only has a higher cultivation realm, but his body is also a Beast King White Tiger. His basic strength can be said to be the best in the paradise of gods. The Sky Martial King, the Vermilion Bird King, and the Divine Saber King cannot compare to him. Therefore, if you want to beat him, you must have a high level of skill." The 10,000 Arrow King nodded and stared intently at the screen. The speed of the White Tiger Killing Ball was not very fast, but with every step it moved forward, the White Tiger Phantom became more and more real. Its imposing manner was as heavy as a mountain and as sharp as a knife, while the tiger's roar came wave after wave. This ball was not only amazing in terms of power, but also in terms of skill. In any case, the White Tiger King was the second-ranked character among the 4 great quasi-emperors. How could his skills be weak? Everyone's eyes fell on Yi Chen. They wanted to see how this rare genius would deal with it. Yi Chen spread his feet apart and kept his center of gravity low. The powerful pressure from the White Tiger Killing Ball blew his long hair into the air, just like a black flag, just like a black flame. When the White Tiger Killing Ball was less than 3 feet away from Yi Chen made his move. The iron rod in his hand was like a chicken pecking rice, or like a phoenix nodding its head. 2 consecutive blows hit the forehead of the White Tiger Phantom. The White Tiger Phantom shattered with a resounding sound, and the thunderball heavily collided with the metal rod. The 2 powerful forces pressed against each other, causing the thunderball to become thinner and stick closely to the metal rod. In the next moment, the thunderball bounced back at 10 times the speed. Bang! The yellow light exploded behind the White Tiger King. The White Tiger King was dumbfounded and did not have time to react. Just by adding 1 layer of force, the power has undergone a qualitative change. Yi Chen was also a little surprised by the ball just now. The rod that hit the thunderball contained 2 vibrations. The first one contained 3 layers of force, and the second one contained 4 layers of force. However, the power had increased tenfold. I lost, worthy of being called the Genius Sword King. The White Tiger King took a deep look at Yi Chen. The Genius Sword King was Yi Chen's title, which was recognized by everyone. Now that Yi Chen had the strength of a quasi-emperor, it made the title of Genius Sword King even more legitimate. 1. The Sky-Splitting King could not recover. On the side, the Rainbow King could not help but speak up. "It seems that your hunch is correct. He is indeed likely to become an unprecedented figure in the history of the paradise of gods. His progress is really fast. I hope he has good luck and doesn't fall prematurely. Letting out a long breath, the sky-splitting king said. When the White Tiger King stepped down, everyone looked at the 10,000 Arrow King. In everyone's view, only the 10,000 Arrow King could deal with Yi Chun, who had defeated the White Tiger King. It seems that you have to step down. The Celestial River King smiled at the 10,000 Arrow King. The 10,000 Arrow King replied, "If I don't step down, who can do anything to me?" Although he said that, the 10,000 Arrow King still stepped down. In addition to the 3 battle emperors, the invincible 10,000 Arrow King in the Thunderbolt Stadium also longed for a close fight. Yi Chen's appearance just satisfied his wish. No matter who won or lost, as long as it was enjoyable, it would be fine. If one was obsessed with winning or losing, they would have already lost. First of all, welcome to our ranks. The Paradise of Gods hasn't had a quasi-emperor for 5 years. Your appearance is very timely. The 10,000 Arrow King looked at Yi Chun and said. Yi Chun nodded. He knew that the Paradise of Gods was facing a crisis from the sky-splitting king. 3 years ago, one of the 4 quasi-emperors, King Zishan, also died at the hands of the evil child king of the evil god paradise. You're very strong, but I hope you can go all out. The 10,000 Arrow King regarded Yi Chun as a formidable opponent. I will. Yi Chun also regarded the 10,000 Arrow King as a formidable opponent. The 10,000 Arrow King was an expert in the Tao of archery, and his arrows never missed. The Thunderbolt Ball was a bit similar to archery, both were long-range battles. That's for the best. If you don't mind, I'll serve first. The Thunderbolt Ball was on the 10,000 Arrow King's side, so the 10,000 Arrow King felt that there was no need to deliberately let the other party serve first. Okay. While speaking, Yi Chun instantly entered the zone. Be careful. The 10,000 Arrow King threw the Thunderbolt Ball high and quickly struck it with his iron rod. With a bang, the Thunderbolt Ball shot over. As it approached Yi Chun, it suddenly split into 4, and the 4 balls flew in 4 different directions. Archery collision ball. Bang! Without any hesitation, Yi Chun hit the ball above him with his iron rod and ignored the other 3 balls. So confident. The 10,000 Arrow King's brows twitched. Among the 4 balls, some were real and some were fake, but guessing alone wasn't enough. With a 1 in 4 chance, the chance of guessing wrong was very high. Even the White Tiger King had to split out a phantom to deal with the other balls. Woo-woo. Yi Chun's return ball wasn't simple at all. Along the way, it rapidly grew in size, and each ball was spinning. Giant spinning ball. Ha! The 10,000 Arrow King could tell that this ball was very difficult to catch. If Yi Chun and the White Tiger King were to fight, and Yi Chun used this ball, the White Tiger King would have less than a 30% chance of catching it. Of course, he also knew that the White Tiger King was very strong. While Yi Chun couldn't return the ball, he still had to use this kind of technique. The ball is constantly flickering inside. As long as I can find its trajectory, I can return it. The 10,000 Arrow King's eyesight wasn't inferior to Yi Chun's. Although the difficulty of catching the giant spinning ball was very high, he could still see its trajectory. The iron rod in the 10,000 Arrow King's hand was like an all-pervasive stream of water. With a swing of the rod, it passed through the outer wall of the giant spinning ball like a phantom, directly entering the core. Bang! The Thunderbolt Ball was repelled. Amazing! With the giant spinning ball broken, Yi Chun couldn't help but sigh in admiration at the 10,000 Arrow King's strength. This was the first time he had seen someone break his ultimate move so cleanly. The 10,000 Arrow King's strength stimulated Yi Chun's battle intent. Yi Chun waved the iron rod in his hand hundreds of times in a split second, and these hundreds of strikes stacked together, heavily striking the Thunderbolt Ball. In the spectator stands, Huang Hengfei's expression was somewhat puzzled. In the next moment, Huang Hengfei shouted, "It's my flickering meteor ball!" In the sky above the Thunderbolt Stadium, hundreds of Thunderbolt balls shot out like a meteor shower streaking across the sky, resplendent, gorgeous, and incomparably gorgeous. But it seems to be 10 times more powerful than my flickering meteor ball. Although Huang Hengfei couldn't see where the real ball was, from the external appearance, Yi Chen's flickering meteor ball was even more illusory and smooth, with almost no inconsistencies. Good. The 10,000 Arrow King could naturally see that Yi Chen's battle intent was aroused. Chapter 1104. It's ever-changing, but it's still the same. Yi Chen closed his eyes and scanned the area with his soul power. Myriad Arrow King's shape-shifting sphere was indeed ever-changing. Every instant, its trajectory would change dozens of times. And one of these dozens of changes would give birth to dozens of new changes. In short, as long as the Thunderbolt sphere's power didn't run out, the changes would only continue to increase. Soul power had the ability to analyze, and Yi Chen's soul power was 10 times faster than normal kings. In just a second, Yi Chen had found the real ball. Without opening his eyes, Yi Chen took a step forward and lashed out with his rod. Boom! The sound of something being hit was heard as the Thunderbolt ball flew out. What? You broke my ball of shapeshifting. A trace of disbelief flashed through the Thousand Arrow Monarch's eyes. If it was him, he only had a 30% chance of defending against his shapeshifting sphere. Before this, in the entire Paradise of Gods, only 2 of the 3 battle emperors, the Sky Martial Monarch and the Divine Saber Monarch, could withstand the shapeshifting sphere. Crackle! The Thunderbolt ball that was knocked back slightly paused when it approached the Myriad Arrow King. In the next second, a rainstorm of Thunderbolt ball phantoms fell down like beams of light. It's my heavenly maiden scattering flowers. No, it's 10 times faster than that. Huang Fuyu blurted out. Opening his eyes, Yi Chen smiled faintly. This move was the evolved version of Heavenly Maiden Scattering Flowers, Violent Storm. If the Myriad Arrow King used his full strength, he might have a chance to catch it, but now, it was not possible. As expected, the careless and absent-minded Myriad Arrow King did not manage to catch this ball. He won. Even the Myriad Arrow King is not his opponent. The Genius Sword King is indeed worthy of his name. He cannot be judged with common sense. In the audience seating, although everyone was a bit surprised by this result, they did not think that it was impossible. They were all geniuses. But in front of Yi Chen, they had turned back into ordinary people. Ordinary people would always have a feeling of looking up to geniuses. Letting out a breath, the Myriad Arrow King sighed. Compared to you, there are not many who can be called geniuses. You were careless just now, Yi Chen said. Even if I wasn't careless, I wouldn't have been able to defeat you. The Myriad Arrow Monarch didn't think he had any chance of defeating Yi Chen, since even his most powerful shapeshifting sphere couldn't do anything to Yi Chen. After pausing for a moment, the Myriad Arrow Monarch continued. You haven't joined the team yet. If you don't mind, you can join our Exorcist squad. The Demon Hunter team wasn't the strongest team in the Paradise of Gods. They weren't even in the top 3. The first team in the Paradise of Gods was the Martial King team. The second team was the Vermilion Bird King team. The third team was the Divine Blade King team, and the fourth team was the Demon Hunter team. There were only 5 teams in the Paradise of Gods, so the overall strength of the Demon Hunter team was the lowest, not to mention the ranking in the entire hunting battleground. Sure. Yi Chen nodded. You won't consider it? The Myriad Arrow Monarch was a little surprised. Yi Chen said, as far as I know, among the 5 teams, only the Divine Blade team and the Demon Hunter team are lacking members. To me, it doesn't matter which team I choose. Indeed, he didn't care which team he joined. It didn't matter if the team was strong or weak. He was only one step away from the 10th level of the God of War Pagoda. Do you know that our Demon Hunter team doesn't have a battle arch? If we encounter an enemy team with a battle arch, it will be very dangerous, the Myriad Arrow Monarch said. Yi Chen smiled. I think a battle arch might not be faster than us. As long as we discover them in advance, we won't be in too much danger. The biggest difference between a battle arch and a sub-thearch was their battle prowess. And battle prowess was usually represented by one's attack power. Therefore, a battle arch might not be faster than a sub-thearch. If they couldn't beat a battle arch, couldn't they run? You're right. If we encounter a battle arch, we can run. The myriad arrow monarch smiled. Welcome to the demon hunter team. Just like that, Yi Chen joined the demon hunter team. The captain of the demon hunter team was the myriad arrow monarch, and the vice captain was King Zishan, one of the 4 subthearchs. Unfortunately, King Zishan had been killed by evil child king from the evil god paradise. Other than that, the demon hunter team had 5 other members, all with the strength of a subthearch. They were Lu Di, Zhang Yimin, Sima Fei, Yuan Hong, and Lu Wenjia. Lu Wenxiao? Yi Chen didn't know what their relationship was, but they looked somewhat similar. However, Lu Wenjia was colder, while Lu Wenxiao was more delicate. One day later, the 5 high-level teams entered the high-level hunting battlefield together. The advanced hunting battlefield was different from the elementary hunting battlefield or the intermediate hunting battlefield. The advanced hunting battlefield was a humongous planet. Its gravity was 1/10 of that of an ordinary white dwarf star. However, the amazing thing was that other than the terrifying gravity, everything that a planet should have had was present here. It was not crushed by the gravity. The place where the exorcist team appeared was a golden desert with a blazing sun. The sand is so heavy. Yi Chen grabbed a handful of sand and found that this small handful of sand weighed tens of thousands of kilograms. Of course, compared to the density of a white dwarf star, it was still a bit light. A handful of soil on a white dwarf star was estimated to be around 5 million kilograms. In the sand, Yi Chen felt a faint mysterious power, and it was this mysterious power that prevented the sand from being crushed by the gravity. We are used to calling this planet hunting planet. Everything on this planet is very mysterious, and you can't use common sense to look at it, the myriad arrow monarch explained. Because the gravity on this planet was very strong, they could only fly at a low altitude and maintain a height of 100 meters from the ground. Not only was the gravity on this planet strong, but soul power was also greatly limited. In the starry sky, soul power could be amplified by a secret technique, and at most, it could be amplified to 10 million kilometers. Here, it could only be amplified to 1,000 kilometers, which was limited by 10,000 times. Pure soul power could only be amplified to 10 to 20 kilometers. Be careful. When they passed by a sand dune, a sand pillar shot up into the sky, and a huge sandworm-like divine worm scuttled out. It's an elite divine worm. Prepare to kill it. The myriad arrow monarch took out a silver longbow, and a silver arrow was knocked on it. The biggest source of Shinbi in the high-level hunting battlefield was actually not the enemies, but the divine worms. Killing an ordinary divine worm was worth 5,000 Shinbi, and killing an elite divine worm was worth 10,000 Shinbi. Commander divine worms were worth 30,000 Shinbi. The divine worms in the high-level hunting battlefield rarely moved in groups, and it was possible to kill them with the power of a team. It was unlike the elementary and intermediate hunting battlefields, where divine worms moved in groups and fled as far as possible. Swish! The myriad arrow monarch loosened his right hand, and the silver arrow was like a bolt of silver lightning, striking the elite divine worm. Immediately, a thick layer of frost covered its body, and its movements became sluggish. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.